Farm Progress Broadcast presents This Week in Agribusiness, serving America's most essential industry. Brought to you by Case IH, solutions for every challenge, equipment for every farm. Case IH, built by farmers.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining us here for This Week in Agribusiness. I'm Mike Pearson. It was a beautiful week in Grand Island, Nebraska this week for Husker Harvest Days. Tens of thousands of farmers gathered in Grand Island to look at what the latest equipment and technology is, not just for row crop producers, but also for cattle producers. I had the chance to talk with National Events Director for Farm Progress, Matt Youngman, about what growers were excited about at this year's show.
When you get here to Husker Harvest Days, 25% of the show site is dedicated to the beef operations, the cow-calf, the feedlots, and so lots of technology unveilings there, specifically the autonomous feed truck, which is a pretty cool addition to the show. But, you know, throughout the grounds, we also added a cover crop plot, which was really exciting. You know, we dedicated about a 300-foot strip there, and they put in all kinds of 6-foot strips of different blends and varieties of cover crops, as well as 2 plot walks. So it was a pretty cool cover crop show.
Absolutely. You hear folks talking about that out in the fields, especially how it works with the beef operation, and here they got the chance to see it firsthand. Were producers excited about that opportunity?
They were. You know, we had 2 plot walks per day, one for the crop folks and then another one for the beef operation. So, you know, an opportunity to get real specific with the experts and ask questions and probably learn about some new varieties and blends that you didn't know were around.
And Matt, of course, for dryland farmers, when you come out here to Grand Island, one of the things that stands out is all of the center pivots. The irrigation, there was a lot on display irrigation-wise, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. Every one of those exhibits, it seems like every year they've got some new piece of technology that's making it easier to operate from your phone, or water management, or, you know, monitoring your wells, or whatever the latest and greatest thing is, whether it's nozzles or the spans themselves. So yeah, there's always things to learn on that front.
Matt, here on the grounds, we continue to see permanent structures go up. It continues to become a more permanent site. Talk about what that's meant from your perspective managing this show. It's kind of neat to see, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it shows the value of the show. The exhibitors are willing to put that investment into the infrastructure. It's good for Hall County here because that's property taxes that they can count on. It helps the schools and the fire departments. And you know, it's kind of this has been over 40 years of a great partnership here in Hall County, and it just continues to grow.
But it's not just beef at Husker Harvest Days. There's nearly 800 acres of row crop on the grounds, and farmer Jason Libby is responsible for maintaining all of that corn and soybeans. I had a chance to talk with him about how this year's growing season went at Husker.
It was a little bit of a struggle. It came out with some dry weather, got everything in the ground, and then we hit a cold snap for about 4 weeks. It took 3-4 weeks for this corn to come out of the ground, which made us a little nervous, but then Mother Nature helped us out with some extreme heat in July and moved it right along, and we'll be harvesting about 16-17 moisture corn. Had a little hailstorm come through, delayed it a little bit, but we're still good. It's 170 to 230 bushel short season corn.
All right, that hailstorm, gosh, so many producers across the Midwest got hammered by that this year. How widespread was that damage?
Yeah, this one here was only 1.5 miles wide and lasted for about 6 miles and just caught the southeast corner of the show site, southwest corner of the show site. So, yeah, there were some guys that got wiped out and had to replant some stuff.
Boy, it's always something. Every single year is the way agriculture works. Now, the crop ground on the show site is predominantly corn, but I understand you do some rotation. Is that right?
Yeah, we try to fill in some rotation, you know, just keep the soil good, and just it's always good to rotate every 2-3 years to beans.
That makes sense, Jason. Speaking of beans, now I understand coming into this season you had a pretty lofty goal for a bean plot here on the grounds. Can you tell us why you were so excited about this bean plot in the first place?
Well, it hasn't been beans for 38 years, and we were going to pour all this good stuff to it, fungicides, insecticides, everything. And then a hailstorm came through on June 17th and got about 50-60% damage, so we kind of just washed our hands of that. They're still going to be really good beans. I mean, they'll still be 70-80 bushel beans, but my 100 bushel goal is gone.
The Libby family has been managing the crops on the ground at Husker for nearly 40 years. We thank them for making it look so good year in and year out. Save instantly when you buy 2 or more eligible Firestone Ag tires during the Firestone Fall into Savings promotion, now until October 31st. Visit firestoneag.com or contact your local certified ag dealer. Now it's time to talk markets. Joining us this week is Ben Lane. He's the senior dairy analyst at Terrain. And Ben, thanks for joining us this week.
Thank you for having me.
The dairy market is one that has been a bright spot all summer. We continue to see these Class 3 milk prices climbing. And Ben, I've got to ask, is this related to the highly pathogenic avian influenza that's been reported in the dairy industry?
There might be a little bit in there. I think it certainly is driven by supply constraints, and that's among a handful of them, probably a small part, but it is increasingly starting to be measurable. So now that we've got a few months of history with it, we can see where there were cases and see what the impact on milk production was. I think there is a little bit of that contributing to the lower milk supply. But broadly speaking, it's things like heifer inventories, and really on the demand side, things like exports have been a big piece of what's driving milk prices.
Well, let's dive into that. It's good to have some good export news here in an ag commodity. Where are American dairy products moving, and are we selling milk or products?
It's more products. I mean, milk as a liquid is pretty heavy to move around, so it's expensive to ship. And really, this last couple of years, it's been about cheese. So we've always exported kind of commodity powders and whey and non-fat dry milk, things like that. The new development has been cheese. So now we're seeing more cheese moving to places like Mexico, and Japan and Korea are other major customers for cheese. But that's a pretty high value product to move, and it's been a big benefit to dairy markets here.
As I think about cheese, over the past several years when I've talked to dairy experts, American cheese consumption has been climbing over the past several years. And there have been some announcements about new cheese plant facilities going in. Ben, are we going to break this market with increased capacity?
That's been the concern. I think looking at these plants coming online and seeing that we're going to be having more cheese hit the market, I think we naturally worry a little bit. Is there going to be too much in the near term? But right now we're low on inventories. We've got low stock levels. We've got pretty still tight milk demand. So it's going to be a challenge to fill those plants to capacity. And I think there's a little bit of breathing room now. So I don't think that it's an imminent threat that we're going to have way too much cheese on the market. As long as demand stays strong, we're a little bit low on inventories, and milk supplies are going to still be a little bit tight. So it's not going to be, I don't think, a major flood of cheese right away.
Looking at the economy right now, looking at Americans' buying habits, are we still seeing that sort of demand for cheese and the high-fat butter products here domestically?
Yeah, domestic consumers have remained resilient, so exports have been a big boom, but underneath that, still the majority of our market is that high-value domestic consumer, and they still like fat, they still demand dairy products, and it's throughout all the turbulence of the last few years on the consumer front, they've done pretty well, they've been pretty resilient, so that's been another kind of more steady story, but it's definitely been the foundation of our strong demand.
Given this is a demand-driven rally that we're seeing, maybe with some supply constraints helping push things higher, how are you advising producers to market here as we get into this fall looking towards Christmas?
I think this is the type of market where things feel so good. It's really kind of firing on all cylinders. You don't want to be thinking about risk management. You don't want to be thinking about the bad scenarios, the worst case scenarios. I don't think we're imminently going to completely collapse here, but I think these are the types of markets when things are feeling good like this, you want to start thinking about how can we stretch this out as long as we can. So whether you've got forward contracting with a co-op or insurance programs, dairy RP, whatever it might be, these are the times that, when we're talking to our farm credit customers and thinking about what they might want to be thinking about, these are the markets you want to think about. How can I stretch this out a little bit and make sure we can carry it as long as we can?
Absolutely. $22, $24 milk prices, that's something to keep in the pocket.
Sure, and the margins too, on the feed side too. As much as you can lock in these margins, now's a good place to be thinking about that.
All right, we'll have lots more to discuss when we come back with Ben Lane, Senior Dairy Analyst at Terrain. Save instantly when you buy 2 or more eligible Firestone Ag tires during the Firestone Fall into Savings promotion, now until October 31st. Visit firestoneag.com or contact your local certified ag dealer. We're back talking markets with Ben Lane, Senior Dairy Analyst at Terrain. And Ben, you mentioned at the start of our conversation about some of the supply constraints that are hitting the dairy industry. I've got to ask you about the beef on dairy crosses that we've heard a lot about. Is that pulling heifers out of the dairy sector?
Yeah, absolutely. That's been a huge benefit. I mean, from day-old calves to some of the more complex dairy beef cross plans that people have, that's been a major factor that's holding back our ability to rebuild the dairy herd, which I think has been to a benefit, not only because of the additional revenue stream that it's giving producers, but also, that's a heifer you're not having to raise, and it's, as a whole, once you pool it all together, it's one of the factors that's keeping us from seeing these high prices and high margins and then overproducing our way out of it.
Because that is the livestock answer, is we get the big margins, we all increase production, and then prices collapse. But this seems like it's got legs going forward. Ben, what are the concerns you have about a dairy price pullback in the next 6 months?
I think there's that potential. I think there's more downside risk potentially than upside, the potential for a correction. I think there's room for a little bit of correction that doesn't have to be devastating at this point just because of where feed costs are and because you've got these other revenue streams. But, I think once we do have additional cheese plants coming online and you might see some ability to start rebuilding the herd and expand production a little bit more, we might see a little bit more of a cap on the upside to milk prices. But overall, I think markets, there's no reason in my mind to be too concerned about an imminent collapse. I think we're still pretty well supported going forward as long as we can keep these exports going.
All right, exports are the key. It's all about demand, Ben. As I look at the cattle industry, the beef side of the sector, when feed costs come down, we put a lot more of that corn into those animals, and then we're selling a lot more pounds of beef. On the dairy side, as feed costs have come down, do you anticipate milk per cow production to increase? Does that happen on the dairy sector?
A little bit. The milk per cow increase is relatively steady over time, and we're seeing a little bit of, that's one area where we've seen the avian influenza start to potentially take a little bit of that growth off temporarily. So I think, that's something that'll keep going. I think that is something that you do see becoming the driver as you see limits on the number of cows that we're able to have just because of those low heifer inventories. You start to see more increases in some of the yield because we're pushing we want to get more of that milk to get more of these margins and profitability. The way to do that's going to get more milk out of each cow.
The other way, as I understand it, based on how milk is priced, is by getting more fat into that milk if we're paying up for those components. Do you see this quest for fat changing the production systems on the ground? Are we switching cows at dairies across the country, do you know?
Oh yeah, you're definitely seeing a lot more brown cows than black and white cows, or at least in terms of growth rates out there, and that's been a major driver over the last several years, really. We've seen high fat values and producers have responded by making more fat. So that's definitely a market incentive that we've seen come to fruition. I think that'll continue. There's a strong demand story domestically here for fat, high values. I think that's going to continue for the foreseeable future. And it's something we've seen producers respond to.
All right. Ben, before we let you go, the federal milk marketing order could be changing in a big way later this year. The proposal that's out there, would it have a big impact on the market at first look?
Well, I think initially it looks and is probably designed to try and have a relatively neutral impact in terms of total pooled value in the federal orders. There's some things that are going to lift the milk price, some things that are going to knock it down a little bit. Hopefully, all told, it'll come out to be neutral. I think the concern is keeping an eye on some of the unintended consequences that we won't really know until we get into it. Is there going to be shifts in where we incentivize processing? Is there going to be interruptions to some global markets? I think those will be the things that time will tell that we'll have to keep an eye on.
Lots to watch in this dairy sector that's been moving quickly. Ben Lane, Senior Analyst for Dairy at Terrain, thanks for joining us this week.
Greg Solier now brings us his farm weather forecast for the week ahead.
Well, Greg, I understand fall might be making an appearance in the Pacific Northwest next week.
Yeah, quite a pattern shift and just a hint of wintertime in the air over some of the higher peaks of the northern and central Rockies. It is that time of the year, but tell you, a welcome change from the ongoing heat and the fires as well across the Pacific Northwest, across the northern and central Rockies. Those dry-based thunderstorms, lightning-based thunderstorms. More significant rainfall expected with a trio of weather systems moving on through. Snapshot with this pattern shift through the middle part of the week. One weather system and a drop in temperatures for Big Sky Country. Another one through Washington State. The heat for now across areas of the Dakotas, but that too will be winding down. Been pretty tough out there over the past couple of weeks. But again, we're pushing the back 40 towards maturity with regard to spring grains and harvest as well. But 1, 2, 3 weather systems in this large scale, slow to move major pattern shift over the northwestern reaches of the country. So significant moisture for the Canadian prairie, a little snow on the higher peaks just outside of Yellowstone, shower activity all the way to the Rogue River Basin and Willamette Valley with, again, a significant drop off in temperatures slowly into the Pacific Northwest and parts of the northern high plains as the week wears on. A pattern shift to the southern reflection, as we call it in the weather business. So this large scale up air trough early on, it's scattered showers and thunderstorms and still some 90 and 95 degree heat over the western and southwest northwestern end of the winter wheat belt. That part of cotton country is making it through relatively okay compared to the tropical system in the delta. Here's another feature with significantly cooler air, easing moisture requirements and irrigation demand. In the central and southern valleys, gusty winds for the desert southwest will actually get some actual shower and thunderstorm activity across the eastern Great Basin, Intermountain West. And look at the plume of moisture, Mike. Widespread showers and thunderstorms, along with some heat and humidity, some of the best rainfall chances we've seen over the central and southern high plains over the past couple of months.
Do those rainfall chances push their way further into the northern Corn Belt, Greg, next week?
They do, at least the far western Corn Belt. Now remember, off map here, way out here, the tropics are getting busy again in the Atlantic. When that happens, things over the heartland come to a screeching halt. We puff up high pressure up aloft. So here's the scenario. Welcome outdoor work conditions, early harvest. I know the dryness and drought's getting to you over an expanding area of the Corn Belt. The scattered showers and thunderstorms across a good part of the western plains, and little change. The trough is here, the ridge is here, downstream warm weather, late season heat with moisture reduction, dry down for early harvest and crop maturity as well. The warmth up to the Sioux and the scattered showers and thunderstorms roughly Red River Valley, Missouri River on westward, and that will be the story probably for the next 10 days or 2 weeks as we have a logger jam of weather systems, tropical weather systems coming in off the Atlantic. So here's a snapshot. Western Texas, it's hot, couple of scattered showers and thunderstorms, desert southwest and points northeast from there. High humidity and cleanup and recovery. Now, open bowl cotton, yeah, problem with the rains that came through Mississippi, but again, drought relief. Here's the story through the middle part of the week. And the tropics, at least from about the Mississippi Delta on westward, are quiet. Scattered showers and thunderstorms, a surge of late season heat from the Mississippi Valley northward with cooler air, gusty winds in the desert southwest, Mike.
Looking out to the east, Greg, that drought continues to expand. Do you see any possibility of relief next week?
No relief next week, probably no relief over the next couple of weeks as it applies to the Corn Belt areas. Boy, just absolutely horrid through Indiana, Ohio, worsening in many areas of the central and western Corn Belt. But from a crop maturation standpoint, doesn't get any better than this. A couple of showers on the north end of the remnants of Francine. Otherwise, very little change to the maps and charts. A hint of autumn that is in the air for the northeast of New England. Warm, dry weather, much of the Corn Belt. A couple of scattered showers and thunderstorms back west of the Missouri. Here's the remnants of Francine making its way through the Carolinas. Tropical downpours, heat and humidity across the Delta and southeastern states. Again, probably way too much rain with open bowl cotton out there in the Delta, but the rains were appreciated from a drought standpoint. And looky here. One weather system showing significant strengthening, another one in the eastern Gulf of Mexico. Going to be a busy one east of the Delta, up the eastern seaboard here in the weeks to come. Otherwise hot and humid with scattered showers and thunderstorms from the Delta on westward. Keep an eye on the tropics in the Atlantic Basin.
Closed captioning for This Week in Agribusiness is brought to you by Pentair Hypro, a global leader in innovative spray technology for farmers for over 75 years.
For 3 years, American consumers have been spending record amounts of money at retail on beef. But cattle producers feel they're not capturing all of that value. Chad Tentiger founded Legacy Beef Co-op as a way for producers to keep more skin in the game through the slaughter and retail process. We asked him how the co-op works, and he explained it to us.
We founded Legacy Beef Co-op because what we've been watching the last 5 to 10 years of our industry is that the CME, the Board of Trade, does not trade on fundamentals anymore. It does not really show what boxed beef is doing and what our value of our product is. So we are very concerned in the business of how are we going to get a seat at the table? One, how are we going to control what we are getting for a price in our product or have a say in a price of our product is very important to us. And the only way we could figure that out is to join a co-op. Together we're better. You know, the founding principle of Legacy Beef Co-op is just a simple phrase, together we are better. So we have built an organization founded on the premise that producers are best when we work together. And by working together, we can take ownership in a plant, in Cattlemen's Heritage, which is what it's designed to do. It's designed to own in Cattlemen's Heritage and have a seat at the table. And really, out of all the things we're doing, the most important thing about the co-op is this is your seat at the table. We don't get to decide on many things in our life and our business model how things are going to work because we are supply side. And if we only stay on supply side, then we will never have a say in how our product is sold and create an avenue to get the value of the product. One thing that the big companies in this country have done absolutely amazing is create incredible value for our product, for our cattle. They continue year in and year out to create more value for our product. But as time goes on and the board does not represent what our value of cattle is, because it's not with the fundamentals, we are seeing a smaller and smaller percentage of the profits of the value of our product. And really, if that's fair or not, I don't know, but I can tell you, if I'm not willing to take ownership in the next part of the process, i.e. the packing plant and the sales chain, then I don't really know how I can say that I deserve more of the profit. So the co-op itself is the avenue to have ownership in the packing plant, in the sales process, and to have a seat at the table. So every decision that is made on how our product is sold, how it is represented in the market, how we brand it, how we sell it, all these things, the co-op has a seat at the table making those decisions. So it's very important to me that we come together as an industry, join together. We still have our own independent farms making our own decisions on how our operation runs. Nothing about this is to tell anybody how to run their business. This is simply getting a seat at the table so your voice is heard, so you can receive the value of your product going forward, because together we're better. And I honestly, we've been putting this co-op out here for, the last 4 or 5 months. And we have a great system now that there is not a cattle producer in the country that doesn't owe it to themselves to take a look at this and really see what it means.
Thanks, Chad, for filling us in. And folks, you can learn more at legacybeefcoop.com. Now, if you're gearing up for a fall tractor ride, Max Armstrong has the place to go for parts. A lot of times you want to see up close and personal what you're getting, and Max has an update from Michigan.
Steiner Stories. We're here at Steiner Tractor Parts, Lennon, Michigan, not too far off the interstate. You have folks who come and buy right here, do you not, Dan?
Yep, we're open to the public. We've got a retail store, and we welcome people to visit.
One thing that comes out in our visits that I've noticed is your passion for quality. You really want to make sure that the stuff you sell is the best you can get.
Quality is a fixation for us. We want to be a name brand company. In order to achieve that, there's really 2 big factors, quality and customer service. And one thing that sets us aside from the rest of the industry is that we have a quality control department, and we check every shipment randomly that is custom built for Steiner, as opposed to parts that we distribute.
So you really want to make sure that it's going to be reliable for that person buying from you.
We want people to have a great experience. We want people to come back for more. We want people to tell their friends great things about us. And if you don't have quality products, then that may not be the case.
Customer service, you mentioned that. Your people are really focused on customer service. That comes across as we walk around in your offices.
I think everybody that works for me knows that the customer comes first.
Your inventory is ever changing. I've learned that. That surprised me a little bit. You have a number of parts that you plan, that you're thinking about adding to your inventory.
Oh yeah, every week we have new products. You can see them on the new parts page on the website. We have a lot of products that we are trying to develop because they're either obsolete or the aftermarket quality doesn't suit us. We do distribute. We get samples before we distribute a product and make sure they suit us, and a lot of times that's not the case.
You mentioned your website. It is very user-friendly, but for those of us who like to have something to have and to hold, maybe in the reading room, that catalog is certainly something that people enjoy having.
Yeah, we're an old-fashioned company. We're pretty much based on the Sears Roebuck model from the 19th century. We started with the catalog back in the 80s. Well, at first it was more of a pamphlet, and it's evolved over time. It's quite large today. I'm actually actively downsizing it a little bit, trying to make the descriptions more concise. And there are products online that are not in the catalog, but the catalog's fairly comprehensive. It's free. You can go to our website and request a free catalog, or you can call us on the 800 number and do the same.
Dan Steiner, good to see you again. Thanks for giving us the tour of your facility here at Lennon, Michigan, where the customer is welcome.
We appreciate you, Max. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks, Max. And folks, don't go away. We'll have more coming from the Farm Progress Show when This Week in Agribusiness returns.
Farm Progress Broadcast presents This Week in Agribusiness, serving America's most essential industry. Brought to you by Case IH, solutions for every challenge, equipment for every farm. Case IH, built by farmers.
Welcome back to This Week in Agribusiness. At the Farm Progress Show this year, there was a lot of enthusiasm for the future of biofuels and the demand potential that these fuels represent for American farmers. I had the chance to talk with the Clean Fuel Alliance America's Heather Buchter about a new partnership they unveiled at this year's Farm Progress Show.
One of the major partnerships that we're working with, of course, we have a very diverse portfolio within our membership, everything from farmers to marketers, producers, end users, and one of those end users is PepsiCo, which happens to be one of the largest fleets in North America. So as you can imagine, they have very aggressive decarbonization goals, and so a partnership with them has just been such a natural fit, not only for us to use our resources with our environmental scientists, our technical team, and our membership base as well to help them reach those decarbonization goals, and in turn, when other fleets see what they're doing, it also kind of raises the confidence that they see the quality of biodiesel and renewable diesel.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what PepsiCo is doing. They've made some investments in decarbonizing their fuel supply. Can you fill us in on what they've done for the actual trucks on the ground?
Yeah, absolutely. So I believe they have over about 80,000 assets in North America. So that's a big goal to decarbonize that, right? So when we're talking about biodiesel and renewable diesel, it's really those big semi trucks that you see driving the Pepsi products down the road. That's in their portfolio. So what they are doing to reach their decarbonization goals is implementing biodiesel and renewable diesel. So just kind of based on region, a lot of the renewable diesel is going in places like California, where they have the LCFS in place and incentives, and then also in the Midwest, they are actually piloting 100% biodiesel. So I think that's a huge testament to the quality and performance of biodiesel, and they have 100 trucks running on it already, and they're looking to do even more. So we're helping them with that.
Absolutely. And Heather, I think about the Clean Fuels Alliance America, you'd love to see higher biodiesel blends, and 100% is about the blend you'd like to see, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes. We would love to see 100% running on every truck in America, but really what that means is that we're also supporting American farmers and domestic energy as well. So if you think about that, soybean oil is one of our primary feedstocks, and we're proud to be partnering with the soybean industry just to make sure that their fuels are in demand and that we keep growing those markets into not only on and off-road vehicles, but also the marine and rail and soon sustainable aviation fuel industry. So the future is very bright for clean fuels.
Well, let's bring that future in a little bit closer, Heather. Let's look at the horizon, what's coming in the short term. You mentioned some of the big moves in this space. What are you excited about in the short term, early 2025? Anything moving in the right direction?
Well, we have our conference coming up in 2025. It's in San Diego this year in January. So go to cleanfuels.org to learn more about that. But we do bring together a lot of key players for that. And I think the short term, what we're seeing is that a lot of bigger companies are looking at progress over perfection. And so really they're turning to our fuels, and that's something to be really excited about, using over 1 billion pounds of soybean oil every month. We're using every soybean oil drop that we can get in the U.S., and demand keeps rising. So we're going to continue opening those markets and making sure that we continue to meet demand as we have for 30 plus years now.
Thanks, Heather, for that story and for that partnership with PepsiCo. Folks, if you want to make it to that conference in San Diego for the Clean Fuel Alliance America, you can learn more on their website at cleanfuels.org.
Greg Solier is back now with his extended farm weather forecast for the nation.
Earlier in the program, Greg, you outlined some rain chances next week. Can you give us some more details? Who's going to see what?
Yeah, especially in the far western Corn Belt late in the week. Otherwise, the plains into the Pacific Northwest. And here's a story late in the week across parts of the western Corn Belt. And this is probably a little too aggressive on the late weather maps and charts, generally lining up more significantly across the plains, high plains areas, the Dakotas, in through as far south and west as West Texas cotton. Somewhat better coverages for a change in the Pacific Northwest. Still a couple of scattered showers showers and thunderstorms, but expect this part of the country to improve with rainfall chances here in the next 10 days to 2 weeks, with one weather system here, the remnants of Francine moving offshore, and a third feature on the maps and charts here. So this is a pretty good snapshot. Westernmost Corn Belt, plain states in the coming weeks. Wet weather here, drying out over the eastern sections of the country and the northeast of New England, and with time, again, plenty of moisture possibilities over the deep south and southeastern United States. Still, though, Mike, it is dryness and drought in the eastern Corn Belt that is drawing great concern.
What are you watching temperature-wise, Greg, as we get into that last full week of September?
Here we go. You know, we're into the start of the official astronomical fall season. Mother Nature says no. It's more like late July and August over a wide area of the country. There it is, with warmth down to Dixie, into the Great Lakes region, some troughiness out here into the western reaches of the country, and it is above average on moisture. Good news for the Pacific Northwest, northern and central parts of the High Plains areas. An active and moisture-laden one with one tropical system here, probably another couple offshore, and one offshore the Outer Banks of the Carolinas. So lots of wet weather ahead over the Gulf Coast of the eastern states. And once we get this tropical pattern going, we lock down dry weather here, we lock down wet weather here. That'll be the story going forward here in the weeks to come.
All right, Greg, let's move into October. Does it start to feel like fall for more of the country?
It does not, really, with the exception of maybe from the Black Hills on westward. And this is not really any winter-like here, just a drop off in temperatures. Here's this corridor of warmth on this broad southwest to northeast jet stream pattern over the eastern half of the country. Temps about normal over the eastern states, but they'll tend to fluctuate on any given day. With here's another tropical system, another one moving out to sea out of the northeast of New England. We're going to get these slingshot systems off the African coast, a little channeling effect between high pressure across the Pacific, weakening high pressure across the Atlantic. So here's the story. Wet weather Gulf Coast down through Texas, Florida, up and down the eastern seaboard. Again, optimum conditions for early harvest across much of the Corn Belt. Wetter weather getting going across the Dakotas on westward.
What are you watching the week of October 7th, Greg?
And here we go with more warmth across a good part of the southeastern states. We'll get a little brief reminder that it is October, maybe a whimper of frost and freeze as you would expect up near the Canadian border, ridging back across the western parts of the country. And again, this trough over the middle part of the country, and tropical systems will mean a pretty active weather pattern for Florida up and down the eastern seaboard. Some return to brief wet weather over the eastern states, high and dry for the Dakotas on westward.
Our Farm Progress Roundup is sponsored by Brandt Industries. Lead the field with Brandt's lineup of versatile high-speed discs and achieve better results with every pass. Visit Brandt.ca for more. Out here at Husker Harvest Days, had the chance to catch up with Kurt Arns, the editor of Nebraska Farmer. And Kurt, I understand you've got quite a history here with the Husker Harvest Days show.
Yeah, Mike, I think this is over 30 years that I've been attending the show, first with my dad when I was very young, and then with my wife, and the last 14 years as a member of the team, you know, with Farm Progress and Nebraska Farmer. So yeah, this is woven into kind of the fabric of my family in many ways, and that's not that unusual. A lot of families kind of feel the same way about this show.
That's so true, especially here in Nebraska. And as a lifelong Nebraskan coming to Husker Harvest Days, what do you like to get out of the show? Kurt, what for you is the value?
Well, I really enjoy seeing all of the new tech. And even if you can't afford the new tech, it's very interesting to find out what's coming down the road. And here at Husker, the focus is a lot on irrigation, obviously, because we're a big irrigation state, 9.4 million acres underwater, you know, under irrigation. And so that's a big deal. But also beef. The beef industry and livestock industry is huge in Nebraska, obviously. And there's a huge focus on that. So that's always been an important thing. Even when I was farming full time, that's been an important aspect.
And Kurt, you are still farming. Let's talk a little bit of how things are looking in the northeast part of the state. Is harvest getting close?
Yeah, it's really close. Things have moved along very fast in the last month. We had a lot of water, a lot of rainfall through the end of July, but then they kind of shut off. And so the folks who are cutting silage, you know, a lot of times it's just too late for that almost because things have moved along really fast. The crops are still going to be very good, though, much better than last year when we were under a really heavy drought through most of the eastern part of the state.
That makes sense. Of course, you mentioned the beef industry, crucial to Nebraska. It has had a very strong year return-wise. What are you hearing for beef producers? Are they planning to expand, Kurt, here in Nebraska?
Well, you know, in Nebraska, cow-calf and feedlot are really a big deal on both sides of the beef industry. So, you know, as good as the markets sound, you know, everyone's always a little nervous because it's very volatile and the input costs are high. And so, you know, there's always that. And so I think, yes, everyone's optimistic. They want to expand, but obviously there's some concern and worry down the road, too.
Absolutely. Kurt, we'll be watching Nebraska Farmer in the coming weeks. Harvest coverage is set to begin here shortly, it sounds like.
Absolutely. Harvest is on, will be on the way very, very soon right after the show. In fact, I've seen a lot of trucks getting ready and combines setting very near the field, so it won't be long.
Kurt Arns, thank you so much for talking with us today. Always appreciate the conversation.
You bet. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it, and welcome to Husker Harvest Days.
Next on This Week in Agribusiness, it's Max's Tractor Shed, where we spotlight another great American farm tractor. There's a fellow in Missouri who's restored a lot of tractors, and I guess you could say he dances to the beat of a different drummer. That can be said about a lot of us, come to think of it. But he puts some features on a tractor they didn't really have. I'll show you an example in Max's Tractor Shed. Brought to you by Mystic Lubricants. Mystic Lubricants are made to make it last. Well, in northeast Missouri, Leland Crane has fixed up some tractors. I think I've shown you one or two of his in the past, as a matter of fact. And he does some real nice restorations. Let me show you what he did, though, to this 1206 made in 1966. It's hard to quarrel with his fine restoration of that 1206. Among the upgrades, he put on LED lights, a 4.5-inch exhaust pipe, large seat hold-down brackets. He upgraded the tires and the turbocharger. But the name? After all the changes, it became a Super 1206. Leland said, I bet you didn't know they made one of those. Well, no, but I learn something every day. If you see Leland Crane's 1206 somewhere in the region around Philadelphia, Missouri, you'll know that you're seeing one of a kind. And the tractor, too, as a matter of fact. Mark Stock is one of a kind in our book. He comes in every week to fill us in on what's happening at Big Iron Auctions. Here now is his weekly report.
Well, hello, Max. We want to thank everybody that stopped by and visited us in Grand Island, Nebraska during Husker Harvest Days. And now, September the 17th, we'll be selling the equipment that was on display. Items like the New Holland C 337 compact track loader, Case IH Magnum 340 mechanical front tractor with only 710 hours, the Case IH 620 quad track, the John Deere S-Series combines, plus the grain carts, the grain drills, livestock trailers, and so many more items, all selling Tuesday, September the 17th. Also on September the 17th, Western Equipment LLC, with locations in New Mexico, Texas, and Oklahoma, will be selling 111 items, tractors, combines, sprayers, late model John Deere round balers, and many more items. And on September the 18th, a very large sale featuring equipment from Techstar Equipment Sales in Marlin, Texas. Items like the H&S High Capacity 14-wheel hay rake, John Deere 2635 disc, and several round balers and lawnmowers to choose from. Over 1,400 items will sell on Wednesday, September 18th. Go to Sullivan Auctioneers and BigIron.com for more information.
Our FFA Chapter Tribute is brought to you by Pioneer, developing new generations of seed innovations for new generations of farmers. Pioneer, what's next happens here. We do love getting to know that next generation, and this week we're talking with Cody Messer. He's serving as the Southeast Iowa Vice President for the Iowa State FFA. And Cody, thanks for taking the time to talk with us this week.
I'm glad to be here. I'm so excited to be able to visit with you and get to kind of talk about what we've been doing.
Well, let's talk a little bit about where you grew up. Outside New London in Southeast Iowa, Cody, on a farm. What did you guys raise?
All right, so I grew up outside of New London, Iowa, on a small acreage farm. My dad's the youngest of 6 sons, so he moved away from the farm just about a mile down the road, so didn't go too far. But we do a row crop. We also raised Herefords till about the 80s, and then we had to get out of it. But I've shown livestock, pigs and cattle the past 9 years. So I just kind of get into the crossbreds to show livestock that way. I'm hoping to have my own herd in the future of cattle. So we'll see what life throws at me after college, of course, but really excited to kind of get into that more and get more hands-on experience with that, of course.
Well, that's excellent. We always need more young faces in the beef industry, that's for sure. Now, Cody, let's talk a little bit about the Southeast region for the Iowa State FFA. How many students do you guys have, and is the FFA growing in that part of the state?
Of course. We have about 50 chapters in the Southeast District. Our biggest one is Muscatine up in the kind of the eastern side of the Southeast. We have around 3,000 to 4,000 members. We're consistently growing. We just added a new chapter, a Keokuk FFA chapter down in the south, very far southeast corner of the state. There's always a few new ones popping up, of course. We just hit 20,000 members in the state of Iowa for FFA, and nationally we just hit over 1 million. So it's really big milestones that we're doing. So it's awesome to be a part of that. It's been a great experience this year of my service, of course, and being able to really see what we can do and keep the numbers going, keep students interested in FFA and agriculture. And I'm just really excited to be a part of it and kind of add to that, of course.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about. And I understand after graduation, you hope to stay in the ag industry, Cody. So we wish you the best of luck as this goes forward, and have fun this year as Vice President for the Southeast Iowa region.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Colby Ag Tech is brought to you by PTX, a new brand from AGCO that includes precision ag technologies from Precision Planting and PTX Trimble. Chad Colby's been on the road this summer, and that included a stop in Boone for the Farm Progress Show. While he was there, he managed to pick up some new equipment for keeping all of his gear looking neat and tidy. I'll let him explain the details.
I certainly hope you've enjoyed the last two major farm shows. Of course, the Farm Progress Show, and most recently, Husker Harvest. There's always lots of great things to see, and a lot of times you need a little bit of time to kind of download all that information. And at the Farm Progress Show, I had the opportunity to talk to the folks at Protect Systems. Now, they've exhibited at the Farm Progress Show for the last several years, showcasing their system of clean, polish, and protect, and certainly we're talking about farm equipment. And they showcased a couple new things at the show this year. The first being a new cordless polisher. And they've got a complete kit that comes with everything. You'll see it in a minute here. And I can tell you this firsthand. I had the opportunity to use it here recently. Now, I've sped this up at 2 times speed. And you can see we're working an area here on the hood of this John Deere tractor. You can see it's kind of typical. It's a couple 3,000 hour, 10-year-old tractor. It's got that kind of dull haze to it. And before you can properly use a ceramic coating on it and keep it from going back to that, first you got to correct the paint. And you can see here that these tools do an amazing job. And look at the difference there when we pull the tape off. And the one thing I want to tell everyone about these tools, this new tool is cordless. But it's a lot more than that. It's so smooth and easy to run. It's absolutely, in the professional setting, it works great, or a do-it-yourselfer if you want one of these on your farm. And trust me, you're only going to buy one. So it wasn't but a few days after I got home, I got this box, and here it is. This is their ag kit, and it comes with everything you need. It comes with all the pads. It comes with the product. Essentially, it's got 2 different ones, kind of a yellow set and a blue set you saw me take out. And essentially, one's kind of a heavier cut and one's more like for your vehicle. Comes with the chargers and the batteries and all the stuff. And the biggest thing, it obviously comes with a tool. And if you get the opportunity, try it, because the tool is absolutely amazing. There's a lot of great new technology in it. And once you get your paint corrected, well, then it's time to really do the cool stuff. And the cool stuff that's new, it's not using polish, it's using a ceramic coating. You can see that on the left-hand side of the hood. Everybody worries about the application. It's a simple wipe on, wipe off. And as you can see firsthand, the results are absolutely phenomenal. It's safe to say this tractor never looked this good when it came home from the factory. Protect Systems has got hundreds of dealers across the country, so talk to your local equipment provider, or of course you can go out to protectsystems.com as well. They also debuted at the Farm Progress Show a brand new ceramic rinse, and many of you know they are the U.S. distributor for TNT Cleaner. For This Week in Agribusiness, I'm Chad Colby.
Thank you, Chad, for that update. It's amazing what a little color correction can do for some faded paint. Folks, leave it here. When we come back, we're going to go to Osborne, Missouri for the latest update in our Plan Smart, Grow Smart series. For this week's installment of Plan Smart, Grow Smart with our friends from BASF, Max Armstrong had the chance to travel to Osborne, Missouri to talk with Chris Curtis. Chris is a corn and soybean farmer down there, and Max took a look at the fields here ahead of harvest.
Tell us about this area where we're located here.
We run Curtis Family Farms here, Osborne, Missouri. It's nice kind of being out in the rolling countryside. We have to terrace and do things like that, of course, because there's a certain amount of grade.
Are there some unique challenges of farming here?
I'd say just as far as challenges, you know, moisture, lack of, and like say, having too much at the wrong times, but that's the weather. You know, you just kind of do what you can control and move on.
Do you scout your own fields or do you rely on professional scouts?
We have some help, you know, Bill, our BASF rep, he'll call from time to time or, you know, communicate back and forth.
Let's talk about your relationship with BASF.
I like working with BASF. Chemistry has never let us down, you know, and anytime you can, they're getting into the seed industry's tough. There's a lot of people out there that are pretty stern on what they do. I trust them to bring the products forward, you know, that are going to work for us.
What prompted you, Chris, to give Veltima a try on your acres?
BASF's top notch. They're pushing out the best products, and that's what we see the results with. We don't have to handle a lot of products, and pretty simple, you know, working good.
Chris, what's your procedure for evaluating new products? Are you on the bleeding edge, would you say?
We try to stay up on things. If you don't stay up, you're going to get left behind. And when you try, we just try a little bit 1 year, you know, evaluate what has happened and apply what we've learned.
Chris, as we visit here, one thing that strikes me is your enthusiasm, your optimism.
Right.
And looking around your farm, I see the commitment here to the future.
Leaving something for the next generation is, you know, why we get up every day.
Thank you, Max. You know, it won't be long before those corn and soybeans are coming off of those Missouri fields. Folks, you can see our full series at plansmartgrowsmart.com. And thanks to the many of you who came up and said hello to me at Husker Harvest Days. I always appreciate getting to know our audience. I hope we'll see you all back next time right here for This Week in Agribusiness.
This Week in Agribusiness has been brought to you by Case IH. Solutions for every challenge. Equipment for every farm. Case IH, built by farmers. This Week in Agribusiness is produced by 22 Creative Group and has been a presentation of Farm Progress Broadcast. We invite you to visit us online at agbizweek.com.